Power does not always begin with law, armies, or belief. Sometimes it begins with water, and with learning when to let it flow and when to hold it back. Welcome to another story in the brief universal history of civilizations series. Today, I'll tell you about Southeast Asia, from about 800 to 1500, and about societies where order grows out of landscape rather than doctrine, you see. This is a world shaped by monsoon rhythms, rivers that arrive and disappear, and rice fields that demand coordination more than command. Here, authority does not impose itself on nature, it aligns with it. Kings rule because they understand water. Temples rise because surplus allows ritual. Power feels less like control and more like balance. Across Angkor, Pagan, and later Majapahit, civilization is not held together by written law or uniform faith. It is held together by canals, calendars, ceremonies, and trade routes that stretch across seas. When the land strains, the order strains with it. When the sea opens, power moves sideways. This episode is about a different logic of civilization, one where the world itself teaches order, and survival depends not on domination, but on coordination with forces no ruler truly commands. Mud coats Dara's legs up to his knees, cool against the skin despite the rising heat. He squats by the embankment with other children, shaping small channels with his hands as water slips past his fingers. A little farther along, adults repair the banks before the rains return. Dara already knows the rhythm. The water arrives. The water leaves. Everything depends on timing, you know. He learns without being taught. When a channel breaks, fields dry out. When gates open too early, young rice rots in the mud. No one shouts commands. People watch the sky, the river level, the color of the flow. Dara often hears the same line repeated. The king rules because he understands the river. He does not fully understand the words, but he accepts them the way he accepts the seasons. The air hangs heavy, promising rain later in the day. Birds scatter as men adjust wooden sluices. Dara is told when to step back and when to help. He listens closely. Water does not forgive mistakes. Errors are answered immediately, and that is how order is learned here, not through punishment, but through consequence. Beyond the fields, stone reservoirs and long canals stretch across the land. They are older than Dara's grandparents. No written law explains them. No prayer controls them. They work because everyone moves with the same flow. Rice grows because coordination holds. The landscape itself becomes the lesson, I mean. The view pulls back. From about 900 to 1200, in places like Angkor, vast irrigation systems organize life. Monsoon cycles and rice farming shape authority. Power rests on reading water correctly, not on enforcing doctrine or law. By evening, clouds gather and the first rain falls. Dara runs home, tired and satisfied. Tomorrow, the work will continue. Elsewhere, rulers command through armies and rules. Here, order rises from mud, channels, and shared attention to the river. Water teaches first. Everything else follows. Stone feels cool under his bare feet as the king steps onto the temple platform. The morning air is heavy with moisture, and clouds hang low around the towers. It is the late 12th century, at the height of Angkor. He carries no weapon. He gives no command. When he raises his hands, all movement stills, you know. Incense burns slowly. Priests chant words older than the city itself. The king places the offering with care, aware that every gesture matters. He does not act as a ruler issuing orders. He acts as a point of balance. If the ritual fails, the world slips. Crops suffer, water comes too early or too late. Obedience begins here, not in decrees. He feels the crowd behind him, silent and intent. Farmers, officials, builders. They watch not for instruction, but for alignment. Power is not enforced today, it is confirmed. The king knows that after the ceremony, people will work, pay, and serve without being told. The order of things will feel correct, I mean. The temple rises like a map of the universe. Towers echo mountains, steps follow sacred numbers. The king moves through space designed to make power visible as structure rather than force. Administration exists, but it follows meaning, not the other way around. The view pulls back. In Southeast Asian kingdoms from about 900 to 1200, rulers draw authority from Hindu-Buddhist cosmology. Monumental temples act as political centers where ritual sustains order. Kingship functions as a cosmic role, not an office. As the ceremony ends, clouds break and light spreads across the stone. The king descends without speaking. Later, officials will organize land and labor. For now, the world has been set. People obey because the center holds, and the cosmos appears balanced once again. The baskets are already stacked when Srey arrives. The air is warm, and the stone floor still holds the night's cool. Inside the temple compound, people move with quiet purpose. Rice is counted before it is offered. Srey tightens the cloth at her waist and begins her work, you know. She measures grain into smaller containers and marks numbers on a wooden tablet. Land from several villages feeds this place. Fields belong to the temple. Farmers deliver part of their harvest here, and in return, the temple feeds workers, supports priests, and stores reserves for hard seasons. Srey does not question this arrangement. This is what security looks like here. She knows the palace exists somewhere beyond the walls, but it feels distant. Decisions that shape daily life happen here instead. Who eats during a poor year? Who is assigned to repairs? Which family receives help after illness? Names are remembered. Debts are noted. The temple forgets nothing. Memory is part of its power. Around her, women cook, men carry loads, scribes update lists. Offerings move inward, food moves outward. Ritual gives the day its rhythm, but accounting holds it together. Without surplus, chanting would fall silent. Without records, order would dissolve, I mean. The view pulls back. Between about 900 and 1200, temples across Southeast Asia function as economic centers as much as sacred ones. They accumulate land, manage surplus, and preserve memory. In a world with little secular bureaucracy, religion organizes production and distribution. By late afternoon, the heat thickens. Srey finishes her counts and hands the tablet to a scribe. The gods have been fed, so have the people. Power does not live in commands here, but in storage, memory, and steady work repeated day after day. The ship settles against the pier as ropes are thrown and pulled tight. The air is thick with salt and spice, and the harbour is already loud with voices. It is the 14th century, and Weera steps onto the wooden planks, taking in sounds he does not speak and signs he does not recognize. None of this unsettles him. Trade does not depend on sameness, you know. He passes small shrines with unfamiliar gods and flags from distant ports. Goods move faster than beliefs. Pepper, cloth, ceramics, and metal change hands with little ceremony. Weira greets partners he has met before, men who pray differently but measure honestly. Trust here grows from delivery, not from loyalty to land or ruler. The inland courts feel far away. Their titles rarely reach the docks. What matters are winds, tides, and timing. The monsoon decides when ships move and when they wait. Power follows the wind. Weira knows that a delay upriver means little if the harbour is open and the sea is right. The centre is wherever the ship can dock. He eats near the water with other merchants, sharing news carried across the ocean. Ports rise. Ports decline. The network adjusts without asking permission. No single city commands it. Majapahit matters because it connects routes, not because it controls them, I mean. The view pulls back. From about 1,200 to 1,500, maritime Southeast Asia is shaped by Indian Ocean trade. Monsoon navigation binds ports into dense commercial networks. Political meaning shifts away from inland capitals toward coastal nodes, where merchants and guilds move influence across cultures. As evening comes, lanterns ripple across the water. Weira checks his cargo lists and waits for the next wind. Kingdoms rule land. The sea ignores borders. Here, order moves sideways, carried by ships, contracts, and routes that hold the world together without a throne. The breach is wide enough to see straight through. Somchai stands at the edge of the embankment, watching water spill where it should not. The soil has collapsed. The channel has lost its line. He does not swear. He does not call for officials. He already understands what this means, you know. The air is dry despite the season. Last year the rains arrived too late. The year before, they came too hard. Gates were opened at the wrong moment, then closed too soon. Fields flooded, then cracked. Somchai has repaired this stretch of earth before, as his father once did. This time, the damage feels deeper, less obedient. Behind him, his children wait without speaking. Rice stores are low. Work has not stopped, but effort no longer brings results. The system still exists in memory and on old plans, but the rhythm has slipped. Water no longer arrives when expected, and when the flow breaks, coordination breaks with it. Order unravels quietly. Somchai does not blame the king. Rain does not answer commands. Rituals were performed, labor was given. The world simply stopped responding. He hears it in people's voices now, shorter, flatter, without anger. There is nothing left to argue with. The landscape has stopped teaching and started resisting. Beyond his village, canals fail elsewhere as well. Repairs compete with each other, decisions contradict. Where surplus once moved smoothly toward temples and centers, it now vanishes into emergency use. Balance weakens from below, not from the throne. The view pulls back. From the 13th century onward, repeated droughts, floods, and maintenance strain overload the great irrigation systems of mainland Southeast Asia. Surplus shrinks, coordination fragments. Order falters not through belief or rebellion, but through material stress. As evening approaches, Somchai turns away from the broken bank. Tomorrow, he will try again. Once, order rose from water and timing. Now the landscape no longer instructs, it resists. The prayer sounds unfamiliar at first. Raman stands near the edge of the dock, listening as the words drift across the harbour. They are short, clear, easy to remember. What surprises him is not the sound, but the lack of disruption. Ships keep unloading, weights are checked, prices are argued, trade does not pause, you see. He has seen new gods arrive before. Merchants always bring more than goods. They bring rules, habits, ways of settling disputes. This faith arrives the same way, quietly, without banners, without soldiers. Raman is told what changes and what does not. Contracts remain valid, debts are enforced, oaths are simplified. One god replaces many names, but the rhythm of exchange stays intact. At the market, Muslim traders deal openly with locals. They pray, then bargain. Their law feels spare and predictable. Fewer exceptions. Fewer rituals tied to land or lineage. Raman notices how disputes end faster. Trust travels further. Reputation matters more than ancestry. That is useful in a port where people come and go. Inland rulers barely register here. The harbour answers to wind and tide, not to distant courts. Authority belongs to those who move goods and manage risk. Islam fits this world easily. It does not require temples or kings. It asks for order, loyalty, and honesty in return. That exchange makes sense to him. Seen from a wider angle, the pattern becomes clear. From the 14th century onward, Islam enters Southeast Asia through trade networks. Port cities adopt it as a working norm rather than a conquest faith. The roots remain the same, only the code that governs them changes. By nightfall, Raman joins the prayer without fear. Some neighbors do the same, others do not. Both remain part of the port. Inland cosmologies weaken as water routes strengthen. Power shifts from land to sea. Order survives by changing form. Whoever holds the network holds the world. Civilizations here do not rise by conquering belief or writing law. They rise by learning how to listen to land, water, and wind. What Southeast Asia shows us is a different logic of order. Power begins in coordination, not command, in timing, not doctrine. Water teaches discipline before kings do. Ritual confirms balance before administration appears. When surplus flows, temples rise. When roots open, power moves sideways. When the landscape breaks, authority fragments without rebellion or collapse. What is gained is flexibility, networks that adapt, faiths that travel lightly, systems that survive without a single center. What is lost is permanence. When ecology shifts and roots change, nothing anchors power in one place for long. And here is the thought to carry forward. Civilization does not always fall because it is conquered. Sometimes it simply loses the conditions that once made order possible. In the next story, we move west, across desert and grassland, into a world shaped not by water, but by gold, salt, and distance. Into the Sahel, where empires rise between trade routes and sand, and where power depends on controlling what moves through emptiness rather than abundance. What you just saw is a single moment. But the history of civilization isn't made up of isolated moments, it's patterns of different mentalities. It begins with a campfire. Someone sits down, someone else listens, and for the first time, experience becomes memory. This scene is an opening, and everything flows from it. From the first campfire to the last city burning on a phone screen. The YouTube series is drawn from a book that sketches a mental map of humanity, how people thought, believed, and made sense of the world across 5,000 years and 50 chapters. Told not through rulers and dates, but through the lives of people who carried civilizations forward without even realizing it. The book, The Brief Universal History of Civilizations, goes beyond the YouTube series, with over 50 maps, available on Amazon. Link in the description.